Sports with Sean CARDOVILLIS.
Now, turmoil surrounding local swimming, surrounding the selections for the Olympics. Rebecca Kamau, Kenya's top swimmer, not selected for Rio. Let's get the latest from the parent of Jason Dunford, possibly Kenya's best swimmer. Let's speak to Martin Dunford. Martin, thank you very much for joining us. And what are your thoughts surrounding the exclusion of Rebecca?
Hi, Sean. I'm obviously very disappointed for Rebecca because she's worked so hard and she's achieved such great results. I know all the swimmers involved and they all work hard and they're all dedicated and they all aim to, the pinnacle is to go to the Olympics. But my attitude is Kenya's best swimmer must go to the Olympics. There's all sorts of selection criteria where people can get invited, but they need to be invited by the Olympic Association. Then it goes to FINA, the world body, and they then choose who's going to swim. But from what I understand, Rebecca's name was not in the hat, and she's the best swimmer Kenya has. I can share her disappointment and her parents' disappointment.
Now, according to the number of points she has, the FINA points, she is by far the best swimmer Kenya has, huh?
Yeah, FINA awards points for performance. And, once you're getting up to about 750, you're getting right up there with some of the better swimmers in the world. There is no Kenyan that has more than 750 points. So one would imagine that should be the criteria they use to select a swimmer from Kenya. On top of that, she has 2 B qualifying times. FINA are saying, well, we've already got our 900 swimmers and we're not going to invite in many others. However, they have to invite 1 or 2 from each country, so she should have been the one, as far as I'm concerned.
Just tell us a little bit about Rebecca.
Well, she grew up in Kenya and was a prodigious swimmer at a very young age, and then recently she moved to Birmingham, where because of the quality of competition and because of her own ability, she has gone from strength to strength. She holds national records. She got qualifying times, I think, in Singapore at the World Juniors last year. And she's improving year by year. I think she's 16 now, and she's turning in some really excellent times.
I'm sure, in a way, you're not so involved with swimming these days, but when you've seen, particularly the last year or so, it's been very, very nasty. Nairobi having 2 federations, and then, of course, the politics surrounding the main body.
Very unfortunate. It's, I think, replicated in most sports. In Kenya and in many other countries as well. It's not just Kenya. But yes, we don't seem to have officials who really care about the athletes that sacrifice so much, and also their parents, because swimmers are of a young age, as the parents have to sacrifice a lot. So when they are disappointed on this level, it's very easy for them to say, well, it's not worth it, and give up. And then we lose what could be a really good talent. Rebecca is still young, but in 4 years' time, she could be a real world-class swimmer.
Martin, you've been involved for many years, particularly with Jason. Remember Jason holding the Kenya flag at the 2012 Olympics. What's Jason up to now?
Jason stopped swimming. Well, after the Olympics, I think he was a bit disappointed by his results in the Olympics. He was hoping for much better. But, sport is how you perform on the day. But he had to now start working full time. And in order to swim at the very top level against professional swimmers, you have to put in the time. When he was swimming professionally, he was swimming 6 to 7 hours a day. When you've got a full-time job, that isn't possible, in which case you're not going to mix it with the best. And he's decided that was time to concentrate on developing his career.
You and Jason in particular faced a lot of hurdles. I remember the days when he used to swim, he used to just be really frustrated. And in fact, a lot of the equipment he was using, you would get it for him.
Yeah, the federation hasn't progressed since I was involved. They've had issues of finance, and therefore they're not in a position to give swimmers support. So it falls entirely on the parents to get the support. There are a couple of Olympic scholarships. I'm not sure they were given to the right people, but I'm not going to go into that. I know when Jason and David were swimming, they weren't the full recipients, although they were by far the best swimmers. But we didn't make a big deal about it at the time, but I know they were disappointed. They thought they were the most deserving swimmers to get a full scholarship each, but it was shared out with others. I didn't have a problem because luckily, I was in a position to support them, but there are others who deserve an Olympic scholarship who aren't getting them and whose parents can't afford to support them. So, yeah, it's a big problem, and it needs to be resolved. And it needs to be resolved through better administration and better communication with the athletes.
What are David's thoughts on the current swimming situation? We're talking now about international swimming. He was very, very close, almost at that level with Jason as well. And then he suddenly decided to retire.
I think the same thing, yes. David hung around the top 20 in the world in the 50 freestyle for a couple of years. But he was disillusioned by the amount of support he would need to get to that level. He was also disillusioned by the level of doping in sprint swimming, which is beginning to come out now, but has yet to come out. But I guess the main decision, he had to get on with his career because swimming wasn't going to pay any bills. And, when you get to a certain age, you don't want to rely on your parents. So he wanted to be his own person, and he started working even before the London Olympics. So now he's fully ensconced in California, married, and, enjoying life.
And finally, another son of Kenya doing really well at the moment in the Tour de France. Chris Froome, born in Nairobi, went to school at Banda. He's another person who was disillusioned with cycling in Kenya and then went on to get a British license.
Yeah, it's the same situation. I mean, first there is, the problem of poor administration, but the real fact is there's no funding. And if you can join cycling in particular, you do need funding, you do need equipment, you do need exposure to international competition. And if you've got an option, you exercise that option. And we unfortunately lose talent. We had it with Cheng Ajula, we've had it with Chris Froome. I think sort of looking at the options, who's going to fund you to get to the top, and there you have it. I think it's a problem that many third world countries have because we don't have the funding. Our athletes, luckily for them, can get out into the international competition arena and earn a really decent living. You can't earn a decent living as a Kenya swimmer or a Kenya cyclist.
And we've seen plenty of talent. We've seen with the javelin, Julius Yego, but even more impressive now, we're seeing the Kenya national sevens team. They won in Singapore. Can they get a medal in Rio?
Gosh, we really hope so. Again, it's your performance on the day. I'm sure they'll go there well prepared, expecting to do extremely well. You've won one of the tournaments. Why shouldn't you win another one? But it's a hugely competitive field. Again, Kenya rugby is not as well resourced as the big boys. But gosh, we're proud of them because they've done so well to get to where they are. It's really inspirational. And we're seeing it in rugby in Kenya. The 15 side is coming along really nicely, and sevens is going to go from strength to strength, I think.
Martin Dunford, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much.
It's always a pleasure, Sean. Take care.
Sports with Sean CARDOVILLIS.